What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be adding on to my open source browser extension called CaptionClip. It's a browser extension that I vibe coded with Claude Code in probably less than half a day. And it's a tool that makes it very easy to copy the transcript from a YouTube video. Because a lot of times I'll have watched a video and later on I want to refer back to it, but I really just want to scan a text summary of it instead of rewatching the video. So I'll copy the transcript and then I'll prompt an LLM to summarize the text for me. Currently, all this extension does is copies the transcript and that's it. But the way I've been using it is a lot of times I'll say to an LLM, summarize or pull the key points from, and then I'll paste the transcript in. And I'm very lazy and I want to not have to type that every time. So I want to be able to let the user customize this extension and allow them to enter a custom string that's prepended before the transcript. So instead of having to type summarize every time, then we can just click, boom, transcript, and it'll already include summarize or whatever you configure it to. Maybe you want to configure it to something different. It would be really easy to just hard code this, but I wanted to allow the user to customize it. And so, yeah, today we're going to be using Claude Code to add on to this extension. And so if you're interested in seeing how I use AI or how I use Claude Code, then I hope you stick around. Let's get right to it. So if you haven't used Claude Code before, I highly recommend once you start Claude in the directory of your project, you just do a /init. And like it says here, it'll initialize a new claude.md file with the code base documentation. And this is a markdown file for Claude. It can be for you or for users too, but this is a file specifically for Claude to give it context, to give it more understanding about what kind of project it's working in. And just like using a chatbot in a browser, when you start a new conversation, it's a totally fresh conversation with the LLM. And so when I start up Claude every time, you can continue a conversation from before with resume, and it'll give you a list of your conversations. Just starting Claude by itself is a fresh new conversation, and the only context it has really is your code base and the claude.md file, which it'll navigate on its own and it'll figure that out on its own. I mentioned it in a previous video, but once you're inside Claude, you can shift tab and it'll cycle through different modes. So you can auto accept edits that Claude is proposing, or you can cycle it into plan mode, which specifically prompts Claude to just plan and it cannot code anything. It can't make changes without your permission. Using plan mode is a great way to increase the chances of you successfully verifying the changes that Claude makes, because in plan mode, it'll investigate and it'll come up with a plan. And at that point, you should look at the plan. It might be easy to just jump right in and be like, yep, that looks good. But to increase the chances even further, you should look at the plan and give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. Maybe give it a little more details to guide it a little further. Because a lot of times I think some people get frustrated with using AI agents because they ask it to implement some large feature, and ultimately what it produces is not in line with what they envisioned. So again, using plan mode and guiding it if you need to is going to increase the chances of you successfully verifying the changes that it's proposing. Okay, so let's jump in. So I mentioned earlier that I want the user to be able to customize a string that's prepended to the transcript. For instance, summarize or pull the key points from. What are some options to allow the user to do this within a browser extension? Come up with 3 different options. So this is a pretty small project. I think Claude is going to do pretty well here. But if it's a pretty large and complex project, and especially if you don't know anything about the project, then it's going to be harder for the LLM to, be successful. I mean, a lot of times they are, but I think you will want to manage your expectations. You might not one-shot, two-shot it. You might be iterative, just how you might do the same whenever you're developing, right? You make a change and then you test, you make a change and then you test. It's kind of that same process a lot of times with an LLM. You're kind of pair programming with the LLM in a way. Okay, here's Claude's plan. Extension options page with Chrome storage. Create a dedicated option page where users can configure. Yep, that sounds pretty good. I wonder if that's... So an extension I like to use is Vimium C in Chrome. And essentially this just allows you to use Vim key bindings in the browser, which is kind of fun because I want to use my mouse as little as possible. Anyways, you can see here, the extension itself has this options page, and I was thinking that potentially be one of the solutions that we implement. Not entirely sure if that's what it means with Chrome storage. Okay, so a con is that we'll have to add the storage permission to the manifest. And if you're not familiar with browser extensions, essentially there's this manifest JSON file. Within this file, you have to specify what permissions this extension needs to function. So right now I actually have no permissions, which is great. The more permissions you add an extension, the more you'll have to justify to Firefox or to Chrome why you need those permissions. So adding the storage permission may not be the end of the world. Anyways, it sounds like a good option. Option 2, inline UI with local storage. Add a small settings icon next to the transcript button that reveals an input field when clicked. And then that is saved in local storage. Settings are pre-domain, which is only for YouTube, which might be fine since this tool only works for YouTube anyways. More complex UI, and it could clutter the interface. Option 3, context menu with right-click options. Add a context menu when right-clicking the transcript button, offering preset options like copy with summary prompt. Non-intrusive, doesn't change the UI. Okay, it does require the context menu's permission. Less discoverable. Yeah, that is something I don't love. It's not exactly obvious to the user that that's available. And Claude suggests option 2, maintains the extension simple dependency-free architecture, no additional permissions, provides immediate access to customization right where the user needs it, uses local storage, and then implementation plan, add a settings icon next to the transcript button, create a small inline form that appears when it's clicked, store it in local storage, modify the code to prepend the string when we copy the transcript, and then add visual feedback to show when the custom string is active. Interesting, okay. And then lastly, test the feature across both Chrome and Firefox. Okay, this sounds good. I'm gonna just click enter and let it cook here. This is something that Claude Code will do, which essentially is, even though we auto-accepted edits earlier, the cool thing about agents like Claude Code is that different tools are available to them. So like running bash commands, like running npm run build. It takes a more secure approach where it wants to prompt you, the user, to allow this command. So I'm going to say yes and don't ask again. So there's a .claude directory, and every time you allow a new command, it's going to add that here to the settings local.json file. Off the top of my head, I'm not sure if there's a global settings file for this. That might be useful, especially if you're using Claude across multiple projects. But it's nice because, even if I were to open another Claude session later, it's not going to ask me permission to run npm build again now that it's in this allow array within this JSON file, which is nice. Okay, same thing here. So it's running some tests. I might not have had this repository on this computer before. So previously we have used, or I was using Playwright to test the extension, which was a little hit or miss. I can't quite remember what exactly it's going to do. So we'll install it and see how valuable it is. Because with Playwright, it opens like a fresh Chrome instance, and I can't remember how easy it is to programmatically install an extension like we're working on here. So it looks like it's testing it in Chrome and Firefox, but it might be running a headless browser, which means we're not going to actually see the browser window itself. It's just running in the background essentially, but we're just going to let it run. We're just going to let the tests run, and we'll do our manual testing as well to see if it worked. And let's remove, this is the extension that's actually published to the Chrome store. So let's remove that, enable developer mode, load unpacked extension. So let's see, unpacked, I think it's just here. Yeah. So let's see, let's refresh the page and see what we see. Okay, cool. So we have the transcript button still, and we have this little settings cog. Nice, it has a little like watermark there as well. Summarize this transcript. Let's see if it works. Here, okay, yeah, there it is. Prepend summarize this transcript, cool. Well, that was pretty easy. Again, I thought it would do pretty well because this is a pretty simple project, but hey, you never know. Still fun to see how it works. Okay, I feel pretty good about this. I don't feel like pushing it further because I want to keep this extension simple, and I'm just going to leave it at this because I think it's good enough. And the last point I want to make is that for YouTube videos, it's always going to be the best way to consume the content is always going to be watching the video. I mean, if it's a podcast, maybe that's a loophole because podcasts are obviously in audio only form as it is. But for something like this video from Darren Mostyn, which is a video on how to use the DaVinci Resolve speed editor, it's always going to be best just to see how he's actually using it visually, right? And so I hope people don't view this as anti-creator, because the intention and how I use it is for videos that I've already watched and I want to refer back to them later. And it's just a quick and easy way to allow an LLM to produce notes from the video. And maybe there's other ways to do this, but this is something really just a tool that I made for myself, but I figured I would share it with others as well. So yeah, that's it for today. I think we'll end it there. I will work on publishing this and incrementing the version number so we can update Firefox and Chrome. But that's it. So I hope you enjoyed the video today. And if you like the video, like it. And if you dislike it, dislike it. But if you're interested in seeing more content about AI agents, feel free to leave a comment below. What do you want to see? Let me know. Let's vibe code together. Let's work on some things. So subscribe if you want to check out more content about the AI agents and how I use AI like Claude Code. And I will catch you later. Peace.